It's July 9th, 2018, and it's time to review 5 of the most outrageous, infuriating, or just plain baffling things that have happened lately. It's your Facepalm 5. Let's count them down. Number 1, Trump's insincere, hypocritical response to Annapolis newspaper shooting. On June 28, a man entered the offices of the Capital Gazette newspaper in Annapolis, Maryland, carrying a shotgun and murdered 5 people, wounding 2 others. The shooter was apparently motivated by a personal vendetta against the newspaper. He had previously sued the paper for defamation over an article it published about his history of online harassment and stalking. But he also had a history of harassing journalists who had written critically about far-right figures, including David Lenio, an anti-Semite who was arrested after threatening a journalist and musing about committing a school shooting on Twitter, and Michael Perautka, a Maryland politician with ties to the League of the South, a white supremacist organization that advocates for southern states to secede from the U.S. and establish a white Christian theocracy. As one of the journalists previously harassed by the Annapolis shooter put it, he wasn't politically motivated, but he was politically influenced by the alt-right. I also can't help but notice that the shooting occurred mere days after disgraced alt-right troll Milo Yiannopoulos told a reporter he couldn't wait for vigilante squads to start gunning journalists down on sight, and that Donald Trump, his various press secretaries and spokespeople, and his supporters have spent the last few years relentlessly attacking, vilifying, and seeking to discredit the news media. And yet, how did Trump respond to the shooting at the Capital Gazette? He tweeted his thoughts and prayers, and then later he said, "Journalists, like all Americans, should be free from the fear of being violently attacked while doing their jobs. To the families of the victims, there are no words to express our sorrow for your loss. Horrible, horrible event. Horrible thing happened." I'm sure his heartfelt eloquence was a great comfort to the victims and their families. He also offered his warmest best wishes and regrets. And then, 5 days later, he attacked the Washington Post for using anonymous sources, saying they are a disgrace to journalism, but then again, so are many others. Nice to see he's taken the tragedy to heart and turned over a new leaf. Number 2, White House Twitter account used to harass Democratic senators. In a helpful reminder that it's not just Trump, everyone who works for the White House under this administration is a complicit sack of garbage, the official White House Twitter account was used last week to harass 2 Democratic senators, both of whom have been outspoken critics recently of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, and specifically its role in enforcing the Trump administration's zero-tolerance immigration policy. The first tweet was sent to Senator Elizabeth Warren, asking her, "Why are you supporting criminals moving weapons, drugs, and victims across our nation's borders?" An hour later, another tweet was sent to Senator Kamala Harris. "Why are you supporting the animals of MS-13? Senator Harris responded, explaining that she used to be a prosecutor who went after gangs like MS-13 in ways that were actually effective and didn't involve abducting children. And she tweeted that response from her personal account, not her official Senate account, thereby demonstrating that she has more respect for her office than Trump and his minions have for theirs, which we kind of knew already, didn't we? Number 3, Supreme Court rules in favor of deceptive crisis pregnancy centers. All the worrying we've been doing these past few weeks over what a shit show the Supreme Court is about to become when Trump appoints another justice has distracted many of us from what a shit show the Supreme Court already is. In its 5-4 decision in the case of National Institute of Family and Life Advocates v. Becerra, released week before last, the court ruled that crisis pregnancy centers are not required to inform patients about the availability of state-subsidized abortion services. This is important because crisis pregnancy centers often deceptively present themselves as medical clinics offering abortion services when they are nothing of the kind. They are operated by anti-abortion organizations for the purpose of convincing pregnant people to not have abortions. The California state law at issue in this case requires crisis pregnancy centers to inform patients about abortion services that are available. The court also disputed the justification of another section of the law, which requires crisis pregnancy centers that are not licensed to provide medical services to post a notice to that effect. Why is that not okay? Because, the court says, it violates the First Amendment. The crisis pregnancy centers want to send an anti-abortion message, and the state law is making it more difficult for them to do that. So, according to the Supreme Court, if it is your organization's mission to lie to pregnant people in order to prevent them from getting abortions, the state is not allowed to tell you that you're not allowed to lie to them. So, does that mean that all of those villains from those Scooby-Doo episodes would be able to sue Fred, Daphne, Velma, and Shaggy for exposing them because it violated their constitutional rights to tell people that they weren't actually the ghost of an old miner, but were instead the mine owner's assistant who was pretending to be a ghost in order to scare people away from the mine because he had secretly discovered oil in the mine? Is that what it means? Number 4, Trump administration asks for more time to reunite separated families. Remember when the Trump administration decided it would be a good idea to criminally prosecute every single person who crosses the US-Mexico border illegally and also take their children away from them? Well, that didn't turn out too well for anyone who saw that coming, and a federal judge ordered the administration to reunite all the parents and children who had been separated, which apparently they weren't planning to do otherwise. Now, with the first deadline looming, it's tomorrow actually, lawyers for the Trump administration are asking the judge for more time. The Tuesday deadline applies specifically to children under the age of 5. Of the thousands of children taken from their parents by the Trump administration, 101 are under the age of 5. At a hearing on Friday, lawyers for the Trump administration said that out of the nearly 3,000 separated children, only 86 had been matched with their parents. Here's the thing with this. The Department of Health and Human Services has dispatched a small army of employees to these various immigration detention facilities across the country in an effort to identify and match parents with the children who were taken from them. And if they need more time to do that work and get it done right, I guess the only thing to do is to give them more time. But let's not forget that this is 100% the result of Donald Trump and Jeff Sessions' despicable zero-tolerance policy. And let's also remember that were it not for the lawsuit brought by the ACLU that compelled the judge to order that the separated families be reunited, these parents and children may have never seen each other again. Some parents have already been deported without their children. Some have been released from custody without having their children returned. There was no plan in place, no system established for reuniting these children with the families they had been stolen from, and if the administration had not been forced by a court order to reunite these children with their parents, some of these separations may have been permanent. Some still may be, and all because their parents committed a misdemeanor by crossing the border illegally. How can anyone with a modicum of human decency continue to support this administration and stand to look at themselves in the mirror? Oh wait, I just answered my own question. And now it's time for the segment devoted to some of the other things Donald Trump has done recently to disgrace the presidency and embarrass and/or endanger the United States and the rest of the world. It's number 5, the further misadventures of Lord Dampnut. Please keep in mind, as always, the following is not a complete list. Not only did he return to attacking the press mere days after his phony expression of sympathy for the victims of the shooting at the Capitol Gazette, he also initially refused a request from the mayor of Annapolis that flags be lowered to half-staff in the wake of the tragedy, only reversing his decision after the story was widely reported in the media. He held a campaign rally in Montana that was even more unhinged than his rallies usually are. He attacked the media as dishonest, again, days after the Capitol Gazette shooting, said that a vote for Democrats was a vote to, quote, let MS-13 run wild in our communities, attacked Congresswoman Maxine Waters as a, quote, low IQ individual, bragged yet again about winning the Electoral College, and alleged that widespread voter fraud had kept him from winning the popular vote, insulted Senator Elizabeth Warren and ridiculed the Me Too movement, and said, "You know what? Putin's fine. We're all fine." Wrong on both counts. During that rally, he also boasted about the, quote, wonderful paper he signed with Kim Jong-un that was supposedly going to force North Korea to abandon its nuclear weapons program. In an interview on Fox News, Trump was asked why we should trust Kim. Trump replied, quote, "I made a deal with him. I shook hands with him. I really believe he means it." So for those of you keeping score at home, the Iran nuclear deal, which was the result of years of multilateral negotiations, set specific requirements and outlined protocols for verifying that those requirements were being met, was a terrible deal that would never have prevented Iran from developing its own nuclear weapon, but the non-binding 400-word press release that Trump and Kim signed, where Kim promised to work toward denuclearization, has ended the threat of nuclear war. Hey, how's that going, by the way? Satellite images and U.S. intelligence officials say North Korea is continuing to move forward with its nuclear program, but he shook Trump's hand. He signed the thing. Speaking of Kim, South Korean media reported that when U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo met with Kim last week, he brought him a gift from Trump, a CD containing the Elton John song Rocket Man. But not just any old CD, an autographed CD. Not autographed by Elton John, autographed by Trump. That's 5. Speak out, act out, resist, look after each other. Hey folks, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and also please consider helping me to make more videos like this one and like all the videos I make on this channel by becoming a supporter through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron of this channel for as little as $1 a month. And believe me, those $1 a month pledges really help me out like you would not believe. But if you can afford it and if you think I'm worth it, you can pledge at $5 a month or more, and in doing so, take advantage of some extra little perks in the Patreon campaign, including a shout out at the end of the Facepalm 5, just like these wonderful people, my newest $5 plus patrons, Rachel, thank you Rachel, Honey Ace 427, thank you Honey Ace 427, Jennifer Havard, thank you Jennifer, Elijah Sarver, thank you Elijah, and David Pritchard, thank you David. Thanks to all of my patrons, new and long-standing, no matter what level you are pledging at. I appreciate all of your support. Thanks to all of you for watching. I appreciate all of your support too, whether you're a patron or not. And I'll see you next time.